Hey everyone, Zach here, and welcome to the 50th lesson of this RTS tutorial series. In this video, we will set up our unit recruitment, and by the end of the video, we should be able to spawn our units onto the map using our training post. In the next video, we'll take care of the cost of recruiting units. That said, fire up your editor, and let's get started. Welcome back to the editor. So the first thing we're going to do in this video for setting up our base recruiting units is we are going to go into our buildings. We're going to open up our military building, and we're going to need a couple of blueprints open just to make this work right. And it's not military building master, it's our training post we need to do this in. We're going to pin this up here. We're going to open full blueprint, repin it, sorry. And we'll take care of some stuff in here. But we also need our unit master. This is going to affect all units when they get recruited. So we'll use our unit master for it. And I think that is the ones we need right now. We might need more later on. So let's go into our training post first. We are going to call our event from our grandparent blueprint, which is our building master. Remember, this is a child of our RTS military building master. Our RTS military building master is a child of our building master blueprint. So if I do my override over here and type in recruitment trigger, there we go. I'm going to click that and it brings it onto our event graph here. Alright, so the very first thing we need to do is we need to figure out how many units we're training. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it's going to train all units at once. We want them to train one at a time. Now, if you don't want them to train one at a time, you can skip the step. And then anything related to the step later on, which I'll point out to you if I remember along the way. So to do this, we're going to create a new integer variable. And this integer will be number to be trained. Actually, we'll do this units to be trained. Sorry for that sorry for that noise in the background. That's just the dog being my dog. And this will again will be an integer. We're going to drag this as a getter, and we are going to then increment this. So every time this event is triggered, we're going to increment our integer, which just adds 1. You could do integer plus integer and just add 1 as well, but I prefer increment. Grab your units to be trained and set it at the end of this. So we're now setting our units to be trained. We've gotten the value. We've incremented it. We're resetting that variable to have that new value. Let's also fix a typo in there. That T should be capital and oh my God, I can't speak today. Should be capital. Still not saying that right. And I'm not going to worry about it now. Should be a capital. All right, I give up. I'm having one of those days. What can I say? So the next thing we need to do is we need to set timer by function name. Now, we're going to come back to this later on, but for now, what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of this, and we're going to promote to variable. And this will be training time. We're going to compile this so we get the default value. We're going to set it to 2 for now. You might want to set to whatever number you want, but 2 is a good test number. And off our event begin play, after parent begin play, we're going to set our training time there. And I'm just going to default this out to 2. And I'm going to hard code it in because I've had some problems plugging the training time in on this one. Alright, so the event timer, let's go back to that. And we are going to do our return value before we name this thing. Promote to variable, and that will be spawn unit timer handle, or TH if you prefer. There we go. Now our function name will be spawn new unit. Remember, we said spawn in on our unit. I'm going to just copy, control C that, compile, and I'm going to create a new function. It'll be spawn new unit. So spawn new unit is going to have a number of steps in it. First thing I need to do, though, is to know the type of unit that I am training. I'm going to right click, sorry about that, and I am not going to do anything yet because I've skipped a step. I'm going to go back to my unit master. And this is one of the reasons why we have this open. We need in our unit master to do a couple of things first. We need to set up our unit type. So I'm just going to be a little bit lazy. I'm going to go into my unit. I'm going to go into my details panel. And I'm just going to duplicate my surname here for a second. Fine. Duplicate surname. The reason I'm being lazy is it puts it right where I want it anyway. I want it inside the details panel. This will be unit type. I just need to change out what type of enum this is. So this will be unit types enum. There we go. And if I really felt like it, I could add this to the profile. In fact, I'm going to add this to the profile because I feel like doing that. So if I go up to my set unit features, we have that profile there. I'm just going to move this along, by the way, to make this a little bit easier. We're just going to drag this out. And I'm going to grab my unit type. I'm going to place it there. We're going to plug this pin into here. We'll do the same up here. And I'm going to plug the unit type into there. Actually, we don't need to add it to profile, but it is just nice to add in case you want to pull it from the profile to have it say what type of unit it is inside of the unit UI. All right, now the most important thing after this point, however, is setting this type in each of our units. Right now, we only have one unit type, our harvester unit. So let's open that up. And let's go into our details. And you see we have unit type there. Well, this is our harvester. Let's change that over to harvester. Compile, save. There we go. So now we've set our harvester type to be a harvester. Let's go into our blueprint, into our structure folder. And then we have our unit profile. Let's add in our new variable, which will be unit type. And this will, of course, be our unit types enum. Save that. You notice that our unit master now has a new compile button because it has, or new save button because it has been updated. And we're just going to add in the update to the profile in here, our unit type. Control S, save everything. Compile as well and Control S, save. Sorry about that. All right. So now in our spawn new unit function inside of our training post, what we need to do is we need to get from our parent, and this is a parent of our building master, that is, we're going to get unit type from there as well. So we get unit type. This is why it's in the parent, this is why in the building master, so we're getting the unit type from there. We're going to switch based on our unit type what unit we spawn in. You actually really don't need this in the building master, or sorry, in the unit master or the units themselves. It is just useful if you want to have a double check, and we aren't going to be doing that in this video. We'll be doing that in a few videos down the road. I was just preparing for that. And we are going to, off of each of these, have a spawn actor from class. And I'm just going to put a reroute into this, line that up, and then just drag that up to there. All right, I'm going to duplicate this down here. Actually, before I duplicate that down there, I'm going to set this RTS unit master. I'm going to delete the second one because the spacing changes because we have more pins. So I duplicate that down there, plug that into engineer, duplicate that down there, plug that into harvester, and finally into support. And again, I'll put a reroute into this final one. All right, so everything but this third one, this harvester, should be unit master. This harvester, however, will be our unit harvester, or harvester unit. Now, we need to tell it something else. We need to tell it where we want it to spawn. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to get a reference to self. We're going to do this up here just to make life a little bit easier. Get a reference to self. We are going to get remember the self in this case is the building we're in. We're going to get actor location. We are going to split this pin. We are going to put a reroute on this line as well. And we want to get the building's rotation. And the reason we're getting the rotation, and you might want to add this to the release units, by the way, as a suggestion, is we're going to get the front of the building. So we're going to get actor rotation. All right, again, if you have that issue, you can't find what you're looking for, go off the self, get actor rotation, unpin from the actor rotation, plug the reroute into actor rotation. There we go. That's lovely. And we're going to split structure. Not only are we doing this so we get the front of the building, we're doing this so the unit is facing the correct direction when it walks out the building. So I've had a bit of an issue where it doesn't spawn in on the correct line. So we're actually going to set the Z value and the X value for our location. We are going to leave the Y value as default. So make vector Y into Y. All right, let's see with our Z. Do float plus float. Plug that into there. Now this should be a small number. Let's go into our map here. It should be just be slightly above the Z of our landscape. So I am going to set this to 110. Now if this is built on a hill, I might actually, remember it's adding 110 to where this actor is located, so I don't need to worry if it's set on a hill. And then off our X, I'm going to add 1500. So it's going to walk 1500 paces away from the building. All right, going to drag out this return value, make transform. Just line these things up a little bit more neatly. All right, so we need to do our rotator. My X value is going to stay as my X value, so I'm going to do make rotator off of this. And I'm going to do likewise on my Y value. Now my X or Z value, what else? X there, my Z value, I'm going to add 180 degrees of rotation. That way I am facing the correct direction and coming out the correct part of the building when everything goes off. So we're coming out the correct side of the building. We are facing the right way when we come out. Everything is now nice and neatly set. Just going to drag this up a little bit, and then I'm going to right click it all, collapse down to macro, and this macro will be spawn transform. So open this macro up a bit, and what we need on this is an output. We just need to plug that output into there, this return value. Compile, save, and this error we're getting since we compiled is about the transform in our spawn new unit. We have 4 things that need a transform. We haven't set that yet. So let's just drag all 4 of these out to give us a bit of space. We're going to plug into our spawn transform this into our spawn actor, our new spawn transform. There we go. That way we can get rid of that error and it knows where to spawn the units in at. And the final one down here, spawn transform, and plug that into there. There we go, compile, that error should go away. Now we aren't quite done yet. If we hit play, yes, units will spawn in, and let's just make sure they do. So let's go to our training post, and let's hit the harvester, and wait about 2 seconds. Right, we actually skipped a step to test that. So what we needed to do, actually no, that should have worked. So let's go into our widget here for a second. Let's go into our building info, and we'll do one on the infantry. Add a breakpoint to our infantry, hit play, There we go. Infantry, step through. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. The only one that has anything that's going to that particular building anyway. We add in. We increment the number of units to be trained. There we go. And then we should, in 2 seconds, see a unit spawn in. Ooh. Let's go here for a second. Yep, that is set to 2. I'm also now on the wrong map. Okay. Well, so we know it's getting to the right spot. Let's see why it isn't spawning in our unit though. So we're going to remove that breakpoint. Let's get rid of that standard macros. We don't need that. Go into our training post. Go into our spawn new unit. And I've just seen part of the issue. Go back to your event graph. And what we need to do, what I've skipped that is important, is this looping. Click looping. Let's test it out now before we put another breakpoint in. Infantry unit, 100, 200, 300, 400. Alright, we seem to be running into some sort of issue where it is not actually spawning our unit in. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that breakpoint in that I mentioned earlier. Go into your spawn unit. And we're going to just put something on this enum switch. Add breakpoint. Go into here. And let's try that. Alright, so it's firing. Let's see what our return value is. Alright, so I spawned 2 units in, and it seems to think it's spawning the units, give me a 3rd unit, seems to think it's spawning the units in, but nothing seems, oh, it's going to keep spawning in units because it's looping through. But nothing is coming out. So let's just make one change to this. Let's set this to 120 just to see if that helps out a tiny bit. Let's see if we can get an endless supply of infantry units. There we go. Hit resume. Hit resume. Alright, we're still not getting our units showing up. So, well, what could be happening is, and I have a very good idea, is that they're actually spawning. And we'll hit infantry there. We're going to let this go. Did I remove that breakpoint already? I did. So I think they're spawning in, but I think if we switch to wireframe mode, we'll find them inside that building. Or if we search for our, notice the number is going up. So it is spawning something in. Spawning 2 units at a time apparently. I'm thinking let's eject from our pawn for a second. Yep. Hello. It's spawning beneath the map for some reason. Okay. That actually should not be happening. I thought they were spawning inside the huts here. So, let's check our spawn transformation for a second. We're adding 120, which is the same value that I'm using in my test file. Well, you know what? Let's see if we can resolve it by doing the next step of this anyway, which is going to be in our unit master. And we're going to create a new function called on training complete. Don't think this will resolve the issue because that issue actually shouldn't be happening. And we're going to do a simple move to location. And this is just so they don't clog things up when they come out. We're going to get a reference to self. We are going to get AI controller. And that will go directly into the controller value there. Put a reroute into the first pin there. And we are going to get actor location. Again, if you're having that issue, off the self, get actor location. Break that pin, plug it back into the reroute. There we go. Split our structure. We will just move them on the x-axis, so make vector y into y, z into z, and you can do a random float in range, or you can just do a simple add. I'm going to do the simple add for now, just so I get this to the base sort of working stage I want it at. Plug that output into the x there, and the return value into our goal. And then we should have a return node. There we go. Compile, save. Now, even though all the units are of the same class, when we do our training, the return value, except for the harvester, even though they're all of the same parent class, they are different blueprints, so we cannot just call our on training complete once and plug everything into it. Every single every single spawn unit has to have their own on training complete. So we're going to do on training complete. What we can do, however, to save time is duplicate it. There we go. Plug that into there. Boom. I'm going to line up a little bit better. Select both of these. And there we go. Plug that into there. Plug that into there. Just bring that up a bit. That will now line up nicely. Unless you grab the node like I did and move that by mistake. Alright. So let's just finish out the sequence for what we need to do in this particular video anyway. Which is we need to update our little list. So if you remember from the start, we have this how many we need to train. We have to then need to update a list saying how many have been trained. So what we'll do is we will do we'll do it off this first one actually. We'll do an increment again. We'll increment a float. But we're going to increment a new, sorry, not a float. We're going to increment a integer, but we'll increment a new integer. We are going to put a reroute here though. And we're going to plug all these training completes into that reroute. So no matter which unit is spawned, we increment this float. Because we might want to spawn multiple different types of units, or set multiple different types of units to be trained. They'll spawn separately. Off of this value, we're going to promote to variable, and this will be completed training. And we're going to update completed training when we increment it. There we go. Next, we're going to have a new function, which is check the number to be trained. So we're going to create a new function, or check number spawned. Check number spawned. And all we're going to do in here is have a simple branch that says, well, have we trained the number of units we've set out to train? And we're going to do a less than value here. But actually, before we do that, we'll get the completed training. So if the units we've completed training is less than our number of units to be trained, then we want to continue on with what we are doing. So plug that into there. And there's a couple of things you can do. You could reset these values if you wanted to, and I'm going to. But you might not want to. You might want to get all the completed trainings from all the training posts ever put in the game and add them up. But if a training post is destroyed, then you lose that value. If you lose a unit, you can't count all units because you're going to lose that value. So there's different ways to handle this. I like the idea of resetting it. But first, before we reset it, I'm going to also reset my timer. So I'm going to get my timer there. And I'm going to clear and invalidate timer by handle. Plug that into there. And then I'm going to get my units to be trained. I'm going to set that to 0. My completed training to 0 as well. And then I'm going to have a return node off this true, because we don't need to do anything if it's true. We're still at training. We haven't met the number need to be trained. Plug that into the completed training, reset into my reroute there, compile, save, go back to my spawn new unit. And then I'm going to call this check number. And regardless of what happens at this point, I want to have a return node. Okay. Now, hopefully, and for the love of God, this actually works correctly. Alright, so let's do it in this map so we can easily see what's happening with that unit not spawning in. Grab the building, do infantry. Oh, it spawned a unit in. However, I'm not seeing it. So let's just refresh this for a second. Let's eject. There's that unit. And it's falling to its death. Awesome. That is not very useful. Why is he still falling? Okay, so it's spawning the unit in, but it's spawning it in under the map for some strange, sick reason. Alright. Well. Let's try an absurdly large number in our spawn transformation for a second here. Let's try 1500. That doesn't work. Then we actually do have an issue that we need to think about. There it is. Alright. Did it really just land on the collision box? That's a bit concerning. So what I'm going to do, because I have a lurking suspicion, I have an idea of what's going on here, is I'm going to just copy all of this for a second. And I'm going to go into my event graph, or sorry, my spawn new unit. I'm just going to paste this in here. I'm going to break this off the infantry for a second and just plug that into there. And I'm going to hit compile. Gonna go back here for a second, and that was my infantry I did that on. Now I'm gonna just get my infantry. There it is. Huh. It is not actually doing some of the stuff it should be doing there. So what it's not doing, let's close that third person animation, we don't need that. What it's not doing is it's not setting this forward value for some reason. So let's add in a breakpoint on completed training. Infantry again. There we go. I don't care about the completed training. I'm just going to work backwards to my spawn location. So my return value here is, for some reason, way off. So it's at 100. So 110 should have worked. Return value. Okay. There we go. Why are you spawning in on the front of things? Let's now try this back at 210. Let's test this out. There we go. Spawn our infantry unit in. And let's see where he lands. Why did it not spawn? On 2 infantry unit in. There we go. Resume. Or sorry, I meant to hit resume. There you are. He's spawning on top there. Hit resume again. Oh, it's still not resume. That's resume. All right. Let's move this down to 150. See if that resolves the issue. Infantry. There we go. Hit resume. All right. Spawn in 2 more units. Resume, resume. There we go. We have 3 units spawned in. Can we move them? Yes, we can. Now, let's remove this breakpoint and make sure they actually work without the breakpoint there. Infantry, infantry, infantry. So we have 3 units spawning in. 1, 2, 3. There we go. So that looks like it's working now, kind of. Let's move this to 120. Compile. Play. Let's see if this actually works now. No idea why it isn't. Oh, that should be infantry. No idea why this isn't working when we have it. Okay. Literally the same buildings. Literally the same map. But for some reason, we have to do this at 150. So you might need to play with your Z value to find the right value that works for your map. I'm just going to test this as 150 in the other ones. It is 150 in the other ones. Okay. I am just going to start deleting these spawn transformations. And, yeah, I'm gonna just be confused for a minute. You know, in fact, actually, yeah, the error is because those things don't have any spawn transformations associated with them. I'm going to collapse this new version of it down to the same thing as it was before. Collapse to macro, spawn, transform. We're going to rename that to actually be spelled correctly. So rename, spawn, transform. There we go. Move that there. Duplicate that in there. Plug it in. And rinse, repeat. Let's hope this actually works now. Don't know why it didn't decide to work with the numbers that I have in the test file, which again, same map, should work. Do our infantry. There it is. Do a harvester unit. Now I'm going to make sure that the different types of units are spawning in correctly. The way I do that is we go to our unit master. And our debugger should have 2 harvester units. The one we started with at the beginning of the game, and the one we've just added in. So we have 2 harvester units and 1 unit master. So we are spawning the right characters in, and the right unit types by the type of spawner here. So our button and our switch are working quite nicely, except for the fact that for some reason my test numbers, which work perfectly fine in my test file, just let me show you. So as you can see, my test file, the building's in a slightly different location, I realize, but remember the map is at the same height. It still works. It has a different value, but it still spawns the units at the correct spot. There we go. Also, if you watch carefully, it changes the resources at the top there. So that'll be the next sort of step we're adding in, is it reduces resources based on the type of unit you're spawning in. Alright, so that said, I am not entirely sure why we had that little bit of the issue with the transform macro, but That will be something we can resolve in a bit. And we'll also take care of adding in our resource reduction based on the type of units we're spawning in the next video. That said, if you've liked this video, go ahead and hit that like button down below. It lets me know that I'm bringing you content that you find useful. It also helps get this tutorial series out there to people who might not know about its existence. And if you are interested in the series, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you know when the next part of our tutorial comes out, in particular when the next part of our unit recruitment comes out, if you want to have it reduce your resources. That said, I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.